Hello, I'm Martha Glennie, jewelry professor at George Brown College in Toronto. My videos look at different jewelry forms, items. I'm offering tips, tools, and suggestions that work for me. Today's video, we're going to look at complex forms. Whether they be castings or stampings, forms that have complex curves as opposed to the other videos where we've looked at simple curves and flat surfaces. So if we take a look right here, you can see I've got, I think you've seen our friend the heart before, but I'm going to think about that in a little different way. And then we've got a number of silver castings, and we're going to look at some rotary tools to see how we can use rotary tools instead of our files and our sanding sticks. So, first up we have sanding discs. Here we are. And sanding discs are available with really quite thin plastic backing, cloth backing, paper backing, and they come in a wide range of grits, some of which are simply identified as coarse, medium, fine, and extra fine. And then some of them, like this one, are actually the grits are identified by micron. So you have to get your book out and have a look to see which way those go. Lots of different makers. Some of them fit on a screw mandrel, and some of them fit on this very nifty system, which is called a snap-on mandrel. So this mandrel has a slit in it, and it has a square head. And then the sanding discs have a brass ferrule with a square. And because of the square, the slit, it snaps down in place. And these are very handy for working quickly and changing them back and forth. Much handier than the screw mandrel variety. Okay, so I think we want to maybe take a look at how this can work for our curved surfaces. Now I've got a paper-backed one on right here, and this is the finer of the paper one. And I'm using my quick change handpiece because, oh, it's just lovely. It's a lever, you do this, you pick up this one, and you put it in, and away you go. So when you have a few extra pennies set aside, I would suggest that you could invest in one of these lever action quick change. And the only disadvantage is that it accepts this standard mandrel. So it has a quite small range of mandrels that it will hold, but it holds burr size mandrels and most of the mandrels that we use for all our rotary tools. Okay, so let's take a look at this on a broad form like this one. And what we want to think about doing is using the surface of the sanding disc, okay? The surface of the sanding disc is on the surface of the metal. So where I'm actually aiming is here. I'm not aiming to use the edge. I'm aiming to use in from the edge. What do you think will happen if, let's get that going a little faster. What do you think will happen if I use the edge? Shall we have a look on this ring? So say I think, oh, I'm going to come in here like this. I'm going to come in here like this and come down. Now, as I feel across there, I can feel that I've made a groove. We don't want grooves, do we? So now I'm going to have to spend a little bit of time working with the surface, and I can come right into that slot. That's where I'm going to find that this is very helpful. Our sanding stick would do out here, wouldn't it? But our sanding stick is not going to go into there. And I can do that flat surface with care There we go. Whoops, no, I haven't got it on there quite flat. My best advice for these sanding discs is to take a stroke and then look at it. Look what you've done. There we go. Okay, now I want to change this up for this one. No, sorry, this one. Because there's two ways. No, I keep picking up the wrong one. There we go. It's this one. There's two ways we can use these. You saw I was using this one with the grit underneath. We can also use them with the grit on the top. So, and when we use it with the grit on the top, we're going to bring it up and use it more like a pencil. Okay, hold it this way. And then we're working like this. There isn't a right and a wrong. They're just different. And you may find one is more comfortable for you than another one. Or it may be on a certain piece, you like to do it one way, and on another piece, it will work better the other way. There we go. So as well as working on the surface of the piece and not on the edge of the piece, what's the other thing that you can see that I'm doing here? Right. If you guessed that I'm moving it, you're absolutely right. That's right. We want to keep it moving so that we don't make marks. Sanding discs are best for convex forms. They're poor for concave forms. So, in this ring, this is easy to see. Convex, convex, whoopsie, concave. And this one, although it doesn't look it, is concave as well. It comes and it comes up like that. And the problem with the concave form is that this comes along and then that edge starts to dig in. Whereas on these forms, I can come in and I can come right over and get down into that low area. Okay? And then come from this side and do the same thing. Now, I'm not fully sanding these. I'm just giving you a little indication of how they can be used. They can also be used, well, let's look at this one, yes. Now, what have we got here? We've got two sides. This one is fully concave, right? We don't want to touch it with a sanding disc. This side, we've got both some convex curves and some concave curves. So it might be quite good if it reaches to use on this side. Well, I'm not liking that very much. That's pretty awkward, and I feel like I may run into this side. So I'm going to say, whoops, that's not a good use for that. But how about this one? I think I can probably, that's got a slight little curve to it. I think I can probably come in there with my sanding disc, yes. And I'm not hitting any other area. I'm just hitting that one side of the valley. Now, this is such a slight curve. Would it be safe for me to do this? Probably, because we can see that these are pretty flexible, aren't they? And so this is much more flexible, the one that's on film, than the one that's on paper. I think I can come in here and do this side safely. All right, so let's see. Have we talked about what sanding discs can do for us? I think we have. I think there's one last thing I want to say, which this is the snap-on discs also make one. This is felt on this side. So we can use this to put polishing compound or rouge on, and then you could use it to come down into this little area. I think they're a great notion In practice, I've found them a little bit flimsy, so they aren't my first choice to do that kind of work. We're going to look at what my first choice would be in just a little while. So, sanding discs. I call it the good, the bad, and the ugly of sanding discs because they sand efficiently and you can be very quick with them. The bad, well, you have to become skillful with them, and that takes time and practice. And then the ugly, well, the ugly is until you become skillful, you can go and start to make a lot of flaws. And you can make grooves and you can make facets. And it's sort of a catch-22. You have to use them to get skillful at them. But until you're skillful with them, you can make boo-boos. So maybe use them and practice on forms that don't have, that are sample pieces or that don't have a lot of value attached to them. All right? So we're going to go on and we're going to look at our next thing, which is radial bristle brushes.